Hi there, welcome to one of my classic reviews where I pick one of my favourite movies, give it a rewatch and then review it. In this video I'm going to be talking about A Clockwork Orange, one of my all-time favourite movies and a movie that I love so much I even have a t-shirt. A Clockwork Orange is a film by Stanley Kubrick, one of the finest directors who ever lived, almost certainly the best American director. I mean, he made at least 6 masterpieces. You could probably argue up to about 10 and I wouldn't disagree. So A Clockwork Orange is based on the book by Anthony Burgess. Unlike most Kubrick adaptations, this is actually a very faithful adaptation in that the plot and the characters are all basically the same. In fact, the story is essentially the same from beginning to end. There is one massive difference though, and that entirely changes the meaning of the work. And I think that's the most fascinating aspect to begin an exploration of Clockwork Orange. So the book is 21 chapters long and it follows a character named Alex who lives in a dystopian world, and he's basically a juvenile delinquent. He's a criminal and he rapes and murders people, he gets put in prison and he then gets brainwashed into being a non-violent person. So there's all these interesting aspects of Clockwork Orange, but here's a key difference. The book is about forgiveness. The book is about the reason we shouldn't brainwash people to not do things is because we should forgive them. We should believe that people have the ability to change. And so people can change, and the only thing that will ever truly reject evil is the choice to reject evil. And therefore we shouldn't ever brainwash people. By contrast, the film is not about that. The film removes that religious aspect because Kubrick really seems to go for the scientific aspect, and his take is much more about the morals of it, the free will aspect of, is it right to take away somebody's free will? Regardless of how good or bad they are, it's just the principle wrong. Obviously there's way more nuance to this, and I've written a very long essay, which I'm linked to in the description, about a lot of this. But there's an interesting side aspect here, which is removal of free will enough to justify the removal of evil? Because the evil in A Clockwork Orange is really, really nasty. This is a film that is brutal and harsh. There's a lot of controversy all around the world because of how harsh the film is in parts. So the key difference between the book and the film really is the book is really about forgiveness. It's about forgiving people and believing that people can change. The film, however, is about free will. So they're different texts, and the only difference is not in the plot. The difference is only that they have a different ending. The book is a different ending to the film, and the book's ending is forgiveness and the film's ending is free will. And it makes a big difference. Obviously both aspects in both work, but I think that little nuance is what makes a fascinating film. And it's also what makes the book fascinating. There's many ways to look at this, so let's just go through it. So on a political front, Clockwork Orange has kind of very conservative overtones. It is strongly anti-government. Some even say that it's anti-communist, given that the characters in the book use Russian slang, and also the fact that the government is authoritarian and people therefore associate the Soviet Union with authoritarianism. I don't really think it's that explicit. I think it's just a society that's kind of falling apart. A key part is the payoff for law and order. People want law and order in this world, and they will do it by removal of free will or otherwise. But if you remove free will, then no one's ever truly good, because if you're not being good through choice, then you're not really good at all. So you haven't solved anything, and so that's the key thing of A Clockwork Orange. Goodness only comes through innate choice, and if you don't allow people the choice, they'll never truly be good. So you haven't solved anything. And if you have no concept of good and evil because people are forced into anything, then there's no concept of crime, and then there's no concept of power. There's nothing. You need to have that moral dichotomy. You need to have good and evil exist, and the only way to do that is to allow the existence of free will. And that makes it interesting, because there is a legitimate argument to be had here. Do we ever make people be good through force? And is that ever a pursuit we should look at? You know, characters in Clockwork Orange look for law and order everywhere. The police, for example, used to be criminals, but they themselves, when they were criminals and friends with the lead character, his character would impose leadership on them and be harsh with them. So everyone looks for balance and order, and yet by doing so they remove free will. So it's an interesting dichotomy, an interesting idea. The film was also clearly about dehumanisation, a topic Stanley Kubrick loved. He did films about the dehumanisation of war. He did films about how sex dehumanises us, about how science dehumanises us. But A Clockwork Orange is really dehumanisation as a centrepiece, because this is all about Alex being explicitly dehumanised and literally turned into A Clockwork Orange. There's also the fact that it's kind of meta, because he's dehumanised through being shown cinema, by being shown film. And I feel like the film itself partially dehumanises its audience. Not only does it require you to learn a new language, it also requires you to distance yourself, because it's so abstract that there's nothing in the film that's tangibly human. It's all abstract and allegorical, so you're naturally distanced anyway. And when the violence comes, you are quite dehumanised towards it. In fact, I think that's part of the irony of the moral outrage. People get this outrage, oh my god, you know, this film encouraged violence. But hang on, The film's thesis is culture is dehumanizing, but it will never ultimately override your will. Anyone who is bad because they're bad. Characters also have this odd relationship with crime in the film, which is in and of itself dehumanizing, because they obviously see crime as an abstract, so they're dehumanizing the victims. But then when they find out it's personal, characters find a criminal who's done something to them. That kind of in and of itself is a big deal for them. It changes the way people see each other, and they end up dehumanising the criminal or dehumanising the victim. And so you end up with all these various aspects about how people see each other, whether or not people can change. In fact, part of the film is that everyone seems to be evil. The lead character is the most evil character I can think of in cinema history, because he is utterly vile. He is a murderer and a rapist. Incidentally, in the book, he's even more vile. Like, the film tones him down, and he's still the most vile character I can instantly think of. Alex is a horrible lead character. He is utterly nasty. And he never changes, really. Or maybe that's the point. Maybe evil cannot change. Maybe the only way he could ever change is if he isn't forced to change. And so that's kind of open-ended. Of course, there's all this thing about government and politics, and it's cynical. The film is so cynical. It's almost like you think society in and of itself dehumanises us all, and society in and of itself does not allow for free will. Another interesting point is Alex evil because he's evil, or is he evil because society is evil? The society he lived in is hedonistic and dystopian. Maybe a world of anarchy and a world of hedonism innately makes bad people. So maybe Alex doesn't have free will to begin with. But then again, if he doesn't have free will to begin with, then why even brainwash him? Because then there's no concept of good and evil. If you don't have free will, good and evil don't exist. There is no boundary. And all these questions are thrown out there. And I don't think Clockwork Orange is out to answer them. I think it's out to posit them. And I think this is why it draws from liberal and conservative things. Like, for example, it's blasphemous, which is clearly a liberal sort of way to make movies, but at the same time it's condemning of people with no belief systems. You know, the only good character in the film is religious, it's anti-youth, anti-government, it's quite conservative, but then it's sexually liberal and open, very contradictory in other ways. But I think it's because it's just drawing from all these political strands to go to the philosophical point on free will and the philosophical point on crime, and it's all about taking it back to that. On top of all this substance, Clockwork Orange has a brilliant style. It is so wonderfully bright and vibrant. The music is fantastic, the use of pop culture is brilliant, it's alive, it feels like a totally unique world, there's no film quite like it. It is energetic. Kubrick is usually known for making very portrait refined movies. A Clockwork Orange feels like just a clusterfuck of just ideas that are just all out there and sprawling. It's really wonderfully made. On top of the fact that there's all these layers to it, it's a different work to the book, because I think it basically removes the forgiveness section to make it about free will, and I think that's what's fascinating. Who knows what the answers are to all these questions? All I know is A Clockwork Orange asks them, and I appreciate that it asks them, and I think it asks them in a compelling way that's really well made. I absolutely adore the film. I think it's wonderful. I think it holds up as one of Kubrick's finest works, and I think it holds up as one of the finest works of 70s cinema by, you know, quite a decent stretch. I mean, it's really magnificent. I have written a much longer spoiler-filled analysis, which I'll link to in the description, so please read that if you really want to dig into more what I think of the politics of this work, and I think there's so many political aspects to consider. Clockwork Orange is an obvious classic, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, so leave me a comment on either the book or the film. I like both, and I'd love to hear what other people think about them, and whether you consider one better than the other. So yeah, I love Clockwork Orange. If you like this review, please give it a like. If you want to hear more of my reviews, then please subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter or Letterboxd if you want to keep up to date with my movie watching. Links in the description. And thank you for watching.